In today's class, we will discuss about challenges to and restoration of the Congress system. Part B, Chapter 5, Introduction. This chapter is about the Congress system, its revival, its challenges, its problems, its activities, and other sectors. So, in introduction, we can say that on 27th December 1885, the Indian National Congress was formed. That means on 27 December 1885, Congress was formed in Bombay, presently Mumbai. This party is the oldest party among developing countries of Asia and Africa. Congress can be regarded as the birthplace of all political parties of India. In terms of execution of work, electoral success, and support of the people, Congress has been the dominant party in India. In the field of party politics, Congress has become so dominant that many call India's party system as Congress system. After independence, Congress emerged as a powerful political party in India. The presence of all senior leaders from the freedom movement made this political party very popular. We discussed it in our previous chapter. From 1952 to 1962, that is the 10-year, Congress did extremely well in the central and state elections. However, this dominance of Congress faced a challenge in the 4th general election in 1967. This election, in a number of political parties emerged as powerful and the dominance of Congress faced challenges. On the other hand, the gradual departure of one after another leader of freedom movement weakened the Congress. Especially after the death of Nehru in 1964, the future of Congress became uncertain. Internal conflicts had brought instability to the party. Finally, the party came back to the dominant position again under the strong leadership of Indira Gandhi, that means the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru. It is worth to be noted that the Congress has been divided 4 times till now. In this part, we will discuss about the challenges that the party faced and how its dominance and power was restored. Death of Jawaharlal Nehru and challenge of political succession in Congress. Nehru's contribution as the first Prime Minister of independent India is immense. His strong leadership brought dynamism to the newly independent nation, not only India, but also several newly independent nations of Asia and Africa. He played an important role in strengthening democracy in India. The newly independent nations of Asia and Africa faced a challenge in establishing democracy, but only because of Nehru's able leadership, India did not face such problems. When Nehru was leading India towards development, because he was a profounder of many things like non-alignment movement, secularism, and other things, foreign policy. But when he started to rule India as a good leader, he passed away. After being in poor health for a year, the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru died on 27th May 1964. After Nehru's death, there was an urgent need to find his successor, that means the next Prime Minister. There was a concern that it was not possible to find a leader such like Nehru's place or Nehru's alternative. But Indian leaders were worried that, like other African and Asian nation, democracy will collapse after Nehru's death. It is worth to be noted that during Nehru's death, India was facing certain internal problems: poverty, inequality, communalism, regionalism, these things. It was also thought that army might try to take control of India's political system. Hence, the decade of 1960 is called dangerous decade after Nehru's death. Gulzarilal Nanda was made caretaker prime minister. So I'm just taking the example. You should not write caretaker prime minister, but you should write that after Nehru, Gulzarilal Nanda is working as acting prime minister. Then Congress child did not. Congress next successors, they didn't find any way whom to choose as the successor of Nehru. That means the next child of the Congress. As we know, the first child of the Congress, as like the minister, was Jawaharlal Nehru, but it is very tough to find the next child for the uh, selection of the prime minister. So Congress is working as like the father at the party. Next, after searching in a wide way or in a wide range, Lal Bahadur Shastri was made the leader of the party. Shastri joined India's freedom movement in 1930. He was an exceptional leader of India's freedom movement. Leading a very simple life, he kept away from controversies. He was a member of Nehru's cabinet for many years. This leader from Uttar Pradesh was known for his responsibility and accountability. Once after train accident, Shastri took the moral responsibility and resigned from his post of railway minister. So these things is one of the vital point to be the selection of the prime minister. This mild leader was chosen from Congress party working committee and he became the second prime minister of India. Shastri was the prime minister from 1964 to 66. In those days or years, he had to face big challenges. First, after the Indochina War, India faced an economic crisis like drought and food crisis were other problems that had been faced by the country. Next, we can say during the Prime Ministership, Indo-Pak War took place in 1965. Although Shastri was not considered as strong a leader as Nehru, he tackled those two challenges very efficiently. His slogan Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Hindustan became very popular among all. But unfortunately, he died when he was in Tashkent for an agreement with Pakistan President Muhammad Ayub Khan to the end of the war of 1965. On 10 January 1966, Shastri passed away. After Lal Bahadur Shastri's death, again posed a threat to Congress was within 2 years. Congress had to search for another leader. Gulzarilal Nanda was made again an acting prime minister for the second time. In Congress, there was a competition between two leaders. Jawaharlal Nehru's daughter Indira Gandhi, and Morarji Desai. In respect of experience, Morarji Desai had better chances. He was the chief minister of Bombay, the then now it is Mumbai. Now Maharashtra and Gujarat under his control at present time in certain cases of Morarji Desai. As a leader, he was famous. He was also a cabinet minister. On the other hand, Indira Gandhi, now the inform Indira Gandhi was the second option and broadcasting minister in Shastri's cabinet. Both the candidates were not ready to step back. As a result, the party had no option but to hold an election for choosing the successor after Shastri. So leaders wanted Indira Gandhi to become the prime minister or the successor. Held through secret ballot system, Indira Gandhi defeated Mr. Desai by two-thirds votes. Despite internal conflicts, power was peacefully handed over. This can be called the maturity of India's democracy. Later, Morarji Desai left Congress and became the Prime Minister of India from Janata Party in 1977 and called the first Prime Minister from non-Congress party. Indira Gandhi's path was not very smooth. She started her tenure as Prime Minister with a number of challenges. She administered the political experience, and due to limited experience, she tried to focus on various issues. Where senior leaders choose Desai as a minister, but overall, Indira Gandhi was the first choice. She was the daughter of the Jawaharlal Nehru, and she had some experience from her father. But immediately after becoming the Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi had to lead Congress in a general election. The political and economic condition of India was not very favorable for Indira Gandhi. During her time, India's economic condition deteriorated. However, Indira Gandhi succeeded in establishing her control over the party. Fourth General Election 1967, the beginning of non-Congressism. The fourth General Election of 1967 brought a lot of changes in India's political system. The 1967 election results challenged the dominance that Congress enjoyed from 1952 to 1962. After this election, the dominance of Congress was challenged. The 1967 election is very significant to the politics of India, faced with multiple problems. The minds of Indian people started changing after this election. Frustrated with economic hardship, the people of India started opposing the Congress in many ways. Although the protests were peaceful and non-violent, there were talks of armed revolution for the first time after independence. The opposition parties tried to take advantage of the growing unpopularity of Congress. Communist and socialist parties strengthened their movement of demand for greater equality. Other parties also started talking against Congress. Parties came together when without any common programs and policies. For elections, the parties came together and decided on the sharing of seats. During this time, there was a centralization of power in Congress. Opposition parties felt that this was the right time to challenge and weaken Congress. This strategic move of opposition parties against Congress is referred as non-Congressism by renowned socialist Ram Manohar Lohia. You also know about him because of the first year syllabus. Under such circumstances, the fourth general election were held in February 1967. This election was very important for Congress for another reason. For the first time, Congress had to fight in the election without their charismatic leaders like Nehru. In this election, Congress faced challenges at both the center and the state level. For many political analysts, this is a political earthquake for Congress. Although Congress got the majority in Lok Sabha, its vote share, the seat share, was lower than that of 1952. Half of Indira Gandhi's cabinet lost the elections. Most of these were powerful Congress leaders. Even at state level, the decline of the Congress dominance was noticed. In 7 states, Congress lost majority. On the other hand, in 2 states, Congress could not form a government because of defection. Congress lost power in West Bengal, Punjab, Haryana, Odisha, Madras, Kerala, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. In Madras, a regional party called Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, that is DMK, won with a clear majority. In this way, DMK became the first non-Congress party to form a government in independent India. In other 8 states, the opposition parties formed coalition governments. These election results made people believe that the dominance of Congress has now come to an end. Beginning of the coalition government is another phase of this chapter. After the fourth general election, we find coalition, or in fourth general election, the touch of coalition was famous. For a long time, coalition government has been functioning in India. When a single party fails to achieve the required number of seats to form the government, then 2 or 3 parties come together and form a coalition government. These governments are called United Front government or coalition governments. The first coalition government in India was formed by Gyan Singh Rarewala in Patiala and East Punjab States Union in 1952. In Odisha in 1959, the second coalition government was formed under the leadership of Dr. Hare Krishna Mehta. However, it is said that in 1967 marks the beginning of the coalition era. In the 1967 elections, Congress government were formed in 8 states. That means 50% of the 16th state of India had coalition governments. These coalition governments of United Front had some unique features. For example, in Bihar, Samyukta Socialist Party and Praja Socialist Party, along with Communist Party of India and right-wing party Janasangha, formed a government. Similarly, in Punjab, parties with opposition ideologies came together and formed a government. Akali Dal came with Communist Party of India, Communist Party of India, Indian Marxist, Socialist Party, Republican Party, and Janasangh. So several parties were developed at that time. When political parties with different ideologies form government, problems arise very soon. Coalition governments are not stable actually. It is often results in midterm elections. At present, coalition governments are functioning in a number of states as well as in centers. Even in Assam, Congress government formed with the support of Borderland People's Front. Coalition governments have become an important part of Indian politics. Defection. New development in Indian party system. In 1967, the political party system in India saw another important development. Defection from political party affected formation of government in many states. When some political leaders, after winning from one party, come out of the party and join another, it is called defection. After the 1967 election, non-Congress parties formed government in Haryana, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh with the help of MLAs who left Congress. During this time, large number of MLAs started leaving their parties. This made the phrase Aya Ram, Gaya Ram very popular slogan. This phrase was first used by the Congress leader Rao Virendra Singh after 1967 election. An MLA from Haryana, Gayalal, changed his party 3 times in 15 days. Now you think about it, how defection is challenging to a party or party system of India. He first went from Congress to opposition United Front, from United Front of Front to Congress, and then after 9 hours again went back to United Front. This led to a very comical situation. After Goyalal came back to Congress, Birendra Singh made this comment to newspapers. This phrase continued to be used in Indian politics, Ayaram, Gayaram. As the tendency of the defection from political parties increased, in 1955 the Rajiv Gandhi government passed an anti-defection law. This provision was included in the 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution. According to this law, if an MLA or MP leaves his party, he will also lose his office. However, even this law could not completely curb the tendency of defection from one party to another. Recently, in Assam, in some years ago, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma leave Congress and join BJP. That is one example of defection. And several other ministers are there in India. Split in Congress. While the number of seats of the Congress decreased after 1967, it formed government in the center but lost power in 9 states. In 8 of these 9 states, coalition governments were formed. Only in Madras, DMK formed government of its own. But the parties which formed coalition governments had no ideological similarity. As a result, they could not continue in power for long. Difference in ideology, politics, and aims led to the conflict between the parties. Many coalition governments collapsed and new coalition governments were formed. Some states were put under president's rule, and therefore separation or division took place in Congress party. So that's all for today. We will discuss about the other parts in our next class. আজকের জন্য ছুটি।